Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I thought we would work with the lovely Ringed in Nature bundle. And this is what I think is a really kind of all-round stamp and die set because it covers all sorts of occasions, everything from Christmas to anniversary, thinking of you, get well soon, and has a whole host of images, even sort of houses that you could use for new home type things as well. And I thought I'd make a Christmas card from it. And one of the things that this bundle comes with is a hybrid embossing folder. So this is a folder that you put through with a die inside it, and it will cut and emboss at the same time. And actually there's two ways to use it. So I've used it here with just the little individual dies that you can see. But you also have this large one you can use instead, which will then cut out multiple of the tree rings as well. So you could cut those out in a darker colour, and then you could have the lighter ones. You've then got lovely dies with foliage as well, little acorn sort of cups and things like that. So yeah, I think it's a really it's one I have bought, and I'll be honest, haven't played with as much as perhaps I should have done. So that's what I'm going to be using. Let's get started. Okay, so outside it is snowing here. I can't believe it. It's December and it's snowing. It rarely snows in the UK in December. Well, you know. And so this is the card. So you'll see here I've layered it up so you've got this layer is upon dimensionals. You've got the embossing behind there, and then I've just added a sentiment across the top, and then on the inside I've just done a bit of stamped off poinsettia and a bit of foliage. So let's get started. So the first things, these do come together because you've got the dies already in there quite easily. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually pop these through. I'm fitting them in, and what you do is you just put them in until they kind of lock into place. A little bit, they move a touch more with the individual ones. The big one really locks into place. And then what I'm going to do once I've done that is I am on these, there is a black line to help you keep everything square. So I'm going to use that just to pop at the bottom. And then you can, if you want to, if you do it right at the bottom, you will get a little gap. If you don't, it will join. It doesn't matter either way, but if you're at all concerned, I find this is probably a better way to do it. So pop that in, fold it up, and I kind of keep it squeezed, and then pop it through your die cutting machine, and you end up with the lovely and this is what you end up with. So when you open it up, you'll see that you've got some fabulous shapes which you can use on another occasion, and then this is your layer to go on the top. Now once you've done that, just take that out, take another piece of card, I didn't tell you what size it was, 14 by 10, and again layer it up exactly the same. So that's why using the line is really good. So just pop that through your machine, and then you'll just use it as a standard embossing folder. But because it's a hybrid one, you can see really deep embossing on this. So those tree rings are really deep. But you've got these lovely tree rings showing on the inside. So really deep embossing. So let's pop those dies to one side. And what I've also done is I've used one of the leaf sprig dies just to cut out some foliage, which I've got here. Okay. So you want one embossed, one using the tree rings embossed. You want a third piece of very vanilla for the inside. So these are all 14 by 10. And then we want to create a card base. And when you cut the cardstock, you're going to end up with a scrap, which is what we're going to use for our sentiment. So for this, I'm just going to make one of my standard card bases, which is 29 by 10.5, which I then score at 14.5. So some people do ask why I always trim them down rather than using half. It's because I find that at 14.85 it then makes all your other measurements a bit more of a pain to do. So I just find by trimming it down to 29 you get a nice, it's easy to do the layers. Okay, so there we go, there's our card base. I've used cherry cobbler there, which I just think is a lovely has a lovely warmth to it. The other thing you're going to need is a scrap of very vanilla to do some stamping on. And so what I've taken is I have got my sentiment and I've got my house. So my house I've actually done in my crumb cake, which I have found is quite wet, which is quite wet, but you know, there we go. So I'm not pressing it. Okay, so I'm just going to, and I've got a lovely hair. This is what happens when you, so let's just turn that over and stamp again. And I've done a really rubbish job on that as well, so maybe third time's the charm. There we go, it is. I want that in a moment for my blending. I'm going to use a bit of cherry cobbler. I'm just going to hover over the top with being photopolymer and line it up. And then we've got our roof. And as I said, I now need another scrap of berry vanilla for my poinsettia. So ink that up. I'm then going to use that same piece for the inside. So I'm just going to pop that, but stamped off. So that's where you get that just slight variation. Pop that to one side. I want my leaf and a bit of, I finished with cherry cobbler. No, I haven't quite. Okay. Before I put that away then. There's my offcut, and I'm just going to use my Merry Christmas. Away. A bit of crushed curry, whatever yellow you've got would work fine. Just adds a little bit to the centre of our poinsettia. Again, just a hint of yellow there. And then finally my evening evergreen for the foliage. Right, so I think we're almost there. So this is my layer for the inside, so I'm going to pop that in. I've got my embossed layer, which I'm going to put to one side, and now I'm just going to add a bit of colour to this. So all I've done is I've got my crumb cake ink pad and a blending brush, and I'm kind of taking most of the colour off that already, and then just coming in from the sort of inside to just give it a bit of hint of colour. Again, you can always add colour, more colour if you want to. So it just adds a little interest to it. And obviously the brush just sort of doesn't go into all of the spaces, so you do get a bit of variation as well. Okay. So now I'm going to pop that to one side. That's going to layer over the top. And you can just see that adding that bit of colour brings those to life a little bit. That's going to be my stem, and there's my house. So grab your snips, and there isn't a die to cut this out. I mean, we have got them, so if you've got the Merriest Moments, you could obviously mix and match the poinsettia from that, and you could die cut a poinsettia. I rather like the kind of watercolour feel of this one. It's a little more sort of sketchy. So I'm just doing a little bit of fussy cutting. As I say, if you've got dies for other poinsettias, they would fit well. You could make this card all about poinsettias if you wanted to. There we go. So I'm just doing, not my best fussy cutting, but there we have it. Okay, so, and then really easy. I'm just going to cut my little house out, and this is one that, even if you're not a fan of fussy cutting, works really well. Okay. Now with my sentiment, I'm just going to come in and trim that, not doing any particular sort of measurements. What I do want to do though is trim that down a little bit on the width. So I'm just lining that up on the, just on the outside of the track really there, which I've probably just done off camera so you can't see. There you go. You can see I've just cut a sliver off there, and probably the same again. Go. And then to layer that, all I will do is just add a bit of adhesive to the back, and pop that into the corner like so, to give my narrow border. So I'm going to pop that to one side and that will dry, and while that is drying I can then come in and start creating our layered elements. So if you turn it over, and you're going to pop some dimensionals, so where there's space to put a big dimensional, we still want to do our usual sort of supportive elements, so we want to make sure the corners are well supported. So as I say, wherever there's a space, I'm going to put a big dimensional. But in a couple of these places, I'm just going to pop in one of my mini dimensionals. I've got here, and you see, I always draw. I've mentioned it in lots of times, but I draw on the back of mine so that I can see where I haven't taken the backs off, like this. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is just take the backs off those. Gone silent now. Gosh, it is really chucking it down. Most unusual for, mind you, like I say, we've had a bit of a cold snap as well. My young puppy is very excited. He's only 12 months old, so for him this is his first proper experience of snow as a young adult dog, so he's very excited. So there we go. And you can see that just adds a bit of dimension to it. I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my house as well. But my leaf, I'm just going to leave as it is now. We could mix this up a little bit, pop the house in here. Let's have a think. Yes, I think that might work. Let's go a little bit different. See how it looks at the end. I might decide that my original one was better, but you don't know till you try. Now again, with the leaf, I could have die cut that using a bit of self-adhesive sheet if I wanted to, but because they're a reasonably large leaf, and also because I'm tucking it into an aperture, I find that that's it's fine. Just put some on the leaf. So there we go. Pop that in there. Let's add my house into that small aperture, and that leaves a space at the bottom for my sentiment. So hopefully that will have dried off a little bit now. So I'm just going to come in and just come in and create a small, I've probably just got a really good shot on, perhaps not, perhaps you didn't get a shot of my head. Not my best sentiment, that one, but there we go. And what I'm actually going to do is, on the first one I only put one dimensional on the one end. I'm actually going to put a second dimensional on there because it just felt a little bit flat when I'd finished. So I'll put two there and one on the end. There we go. Oh, look, dimensional backs still, right. And then to put this onto the front of the card, and I do this with embossing folders, I'm using a wet glue. I find that's by far and away the easiest way to get those to stay in place. Open up your card base. Put our layer on. And then add our inner. Don't do as I did and even mess your card layers up. There we go. So there we have a pair of pretty Christmas cards ready to go using the lovely Ringed with Nature bundle. And if you fancy I'm going to go with a hybrid embossing folder, then just pop along to Stampin' Up, and when you get to the checkout, select me as your demonstrator. I'm Heidi Smith, and then I can send you a thank you card and gift in the post. So thank you for watching. Come back and see me again soon. Bye now.